Hi, I'm Sara Battista. I'm a psychotherapist here at Capital Center for Psychotherapy and Wellness, here to give a little video talking a bit about anxiety related to coronavirus and how we can take care of our mental health. So this is a conversation I've been having with lots of my clients at the moment. It's very normalized under these unknown circumstances. Makes a lot of sense to have some degree of anxiety. What I'm encouraging people to acknowledge that the anxiety in this case is oftentimes very adaptive, right? If we look at the biological function of our emotions, it makes a great amount of sense that most of us are experiencing heightened anxiety at this time. Anxiety is designed in part to keep us safe. When we're worrying about things like our health, it also allows us to motivate to be proactive in taking care of ourselves. And so if you're feeling heightened anxiety, that's a sign that your biology is working pretty well. That said, I also recognize there's another extreme to which it's starting to interfere with day-to-day life and mental and physical well-being for many people. And so I'd like to speak to both of those points. So on the one hand, for those of us experiencing mild to moderate anxiety that's not causing any significant disruptions in our day-to-day life, I encourage people to create space for that. Lean into the anxiety, process it, whether that's talking with supports or journaling. It's okay to give yourself space and to normalize and validate your emotions. For those of us who are maybe kind of closer to the moderate severe end of the anxiety spectrum related to coronavirus anxiety, I really encourage you to practice some grounding techniques. And so we know that lots of our anxiety is rooted in that future-oriented, catastrophic, or worst-case scenario type of thinking. So while we can acknowledge that yes, there are risks, and it makes sense to be honest with ourselves about those risks right now, we can also take some time to bring it back to the present moment. Focus on what's happening in the here and now and not all of the what ifs of the future, because really we have no way of knowing the what ifs in this moment. That in and of itself can be unsettling. What we can do is take some measured steps for the present. And so things I like to encourage people to do are to focus on, okay, right now I am safe. For most of us, not everyone, but for most of us with healthy immune systems, there is no acute risk unless you're already experiencing symptoms and it's becoming more and more urgent. For most of us, that's not the case, and we're just kind of waiting. And so I encourage people who find themselves in those circumstances to structure their time. Try to create as much normalcy as possible. Of course, that's going to be incredibly hard to do, and we're going to have to get creative, but it is possible. Schedule times to check in with loved ones. Schedule time for relaxation, things that can be done in the home, like gentle stretching, listening to music, taking a nice warm bath, things that are inherently soothing. Also, again, creating space for a little bit of processing around the what ifs, but to a reasonable degree. So based on what is already known. What we already know is that if we're starting to experience any of those red flags or respiratory symptoms, there are some measures we can take. We can check in and see, is my primary care doctor right now accepting telemedicine or telehealth appointments? If so, that's a great thing. If not, try to find a provider who is, in case you needed them. Of course, we know if the symptoms become more urgent or more acute and you needed to go to the hospital, that would be awful, that would suck. And the reality is right now there are still resources. And so in coming up with a sort of realistic game plan, the goal is really to soothe the anxious brain by saying that if things escalate in my circumstances, I have a course of action that I can take advantage of in order to keep myself safe. And for this present moment, there is no immediate threat to my health that I'm aware of. So again, this is not the case for everyone, but for most of us who have not yet been exposed to our knowledge or started to experience any symptoms, giving yourself that gentle reminder that it's okay right now to let yourself be in the present moment, reminding ourselves it's still important to be cautious and proactive, but that we're not serving ourselves when we're panicking and over-preparing, or when we're going into a narrative of worst case scenario or catastrophic thinking. So trying to challenge those anxious thoughts by focusing on what do I know to be true? What do I have evidence of in the here and now, rather than getting lost in all of the what ifs. So in sum, if you already have a provider, mental health provider that is, who's able to meet with you via telehealth, I encourage you to use them as a part of your routine for emotion regulation. Keep those appointments, keep as much consistency and structure as possible, including processing with a mental health professional. If you don't yet have a mental health provider, The good news is that for right now, there's a lot of resources, and most providers are offering telehealth resources. You can always check in here at Capital Center or do a quick local Google search to see who in your area might be accepting new intakes and are willing to meet via telehealth, so that if you find yourself becoming more distressed by the coronavirus, you have access to resources and a support system. But most of all, keep your loved ones close, keep taking care of yourself, and listen to those emotions and make sure that we're attending to them.